Hello and welcome to the final Wind in the Willows review. Can't believe we're there. This is the very last one. It is of course the special A Tale of Two Toads. This has been quite a journey, it really has. It's been a wonderful year of sort of like looking in detail at the series. I've got so much wonderful feedback and comments from you all. I wish I had been a bit more active with getting back to you, and I apologise. I meant to, and I want to a lot more in the future as I publish more videos that connect with the series. I'm going to reveal what that is all about very soon. Obviously, going to have a break from reviews because this is the last one, but I do have plans, some exciting things coming up. So, like I say, I will share them with you in due course. But for now, we need to crack on with this review. I've said before that this is, I think, the pinnacle of the series personally. As far as the quality of storytelling and animation and everything else goes, I don't particularly think it gets better than this. This is at the point, of course, where everything was really coming together. Everybody was really experienced. The series had already been aired for many years, and they obviously decided to do a special as a kind of a launch pad into the final series, the Oh Mr. Toad series, every episode of which I've now reviewed, of course. And when this came up in 1989, Christmas 1989, I remember it well. I remember the original transmission, I remember watching it, and was very excited to then get it on video not so long after that, probably about a year after that. So yeah, this is it, the final review. Wouldn't quite call it feature length, but obviously it's longer than usual. It's about 52 minutes or so. So do indulge in me. I've got a little lovely cup of tea here to enjoy while I watch. And I'll have lots to say about it because I absolutely love this special. I think it's a fantastic story. I'll try not to keep going on about how wonderful the animation is, but I do think it's absolutely superb in this special. So yeah, let's crack on with it then. I'm going to press play right now. Sync up with me. Here we go now. There we go, lagging a bit, but there it is. Okay, so for the first time, of course, we do have this different opening. Now, if you've been watching the bonus video reviews, I've been showing the comparison of this opening to the original opening for The Wind in the Willows. And first time I saw this, of course, was for A Tale of Two Toads, and then I discovered the Oh Mr. Toad series after that when it was broadcast in 1990. So this special, like I say, was shown in around Christmas time 1989, and there was quite a gap since the last transmission of the last episode of Series 4 in 1987. I think I've got that right, or 88. But yeah, either way, quite a gap until Christmas 1989, and then of course the Oh Mr. Toad series followed in 1990. Basically, Cosgrove Hall wanted to spruce up the series. They wanted to focus largely on Toad, being he is really the central character after all. And this was quite a lovely way to kind of lead into the series with its new title, Oh Mr. Toad, where every episode centred on the antiques of Toad, or usually a new craze of some kind. I, like I say, remember the transmission of this. I remember it being shown on TV, and then I discovered the video in a W.H. Smith store. It must have been maybe, sometime in 1990, I would have thought, or 91. And I remember it sitting on the shelf alongside the Oh Mr. Toad video, the yellow one. So it was the red one and the yellow one. And I remember my mum was with me and my brother and saying, well, you can have one video. God, I wanted both, but I had to choose one, and I was like, looking at them for ages thinking which one. And in the end I went with this one, Tale of Two Toads, because I remember seeing it on TV and enjoying it and thought it would be lovely to see it again and to own it, of course. So I've seen it so many times and I never tire of it. This wonderful opening sets it up beautifully. You know, not only do we have quality animation from the likes of Paul Berry, we've got Jackie Cockle directing, but also, as the set makers told me when I worked with them, they built this very long stretch of river exclusively for this special. So this long stretch that Toad's going along in this punt in was specially built, and it was stretched along what we called Studios 1 and 2. So at Cosgrove Hall in those days we had two big studios, and there was a big sliding door between them, and it was only opened when necessary, when they needed very long sets, or when you had one production you just wanted to amble between both studios. And for quite a few years I worked at Cosgrove Hall with that partition sort of closed, and then towards the end when I was working on Postman Pat in 2007 to 2008, I remember they opened that sliding door because they wanted, it was basically just Postman Pat was in production. It was the last production at Cosgrove Hall, and it was just nice to see that. And that's when I was chatting to people about it. Oh, this was what it would be like during Wind in the Willows, and I think they had it closed when they had Creepy Crawlies going on and Cockleshell Bay, but around this time, 89, 88, it was only really the Wind in the Willows or back end of Creepy Crawlies, obviously leading into Truckers, but they also had specials like The Reluctant Dragon, Fall of the World and the Flying Ship was in 1990, but Truckers followed, of course, but they did confirm to me for that stretch of river, that set piece there, they opened up the partition because it stretched all the way along Studios 1 and 2. I wish there were photos of that. Maybe they do exist, but I haven't found any yet. So we got that lovely opening with the four of them and Toad crashing his punt on the river, to this scene where the Weasel was, and we just saw then a shot of another Toad. And the title obviously is loosely based on the Tale of Two Cities. And when you describe it in like a one line to someone, or like you summarise this, some people might think, oh, it's quite a lame, obvious story, but I think it's a very clever one. I'm sure you know it well. If you're watching this, I'm sure you've seen it before, but we'll discuss it as the events happen, of course. But basically, as you can see, we've got this other Toad. And the comedy in this is superb, because you've got the Chief obviously working alongside this other Toad, and he keeps referring to him as Mr. Toad, because he's kind of delaying the real secret. He's enjoying the fact that he's got this big secret and this marvellous plan. And the henchmen take so long to fully understand the situation. Especially when this new Toad speaks just like the old Toad. And what Cosgrove Hall did very cleverly, I thought, was they had this other puppet. Now, obviously, they had multiple Toads anyway, but this Toad, obviously, he looks like the other Toad, but there is a slight difference to him. And I pointed out before, he was the puppet used for the character Thomas, the chauffeur, that we first saw in Mole's Cousin in Series 1, and then didn't see until all the way till the last episode of Series 4, Happy New Year. And he looks pretty much identical to the way he does in Tale of Two Toads here. So he's just got that different look. Doesn't quite look like Toad. And I think that was a conscious decision on Cosgrove Hall's part, to design this Toad that was actually different, not just another use of the same mould, And we know anyway that we had two different looking Toads anyway, at least two, throughout the series, and each crew had had one or the other, and it's kind of the same with the other characters as well. It's just a continuity errors basically with the mould making, but we ended up with quite different looks between those episodes, and different sort of feels to the animation as well, because you had different animators, and all animators are different. But I just so admire the animation. Like, even now when I'm teaching animation, I like to use this as an example. I've screened it before. You don't have to know or even love the Wind of the Willows series to appreciate this special. And it's just so clutter-free, and so... This is Jimmy Hibbert, by the way, doing this Toad. Not when he's being Toad, that's David Jason doing him being Toad. So David Jason does a great job at him doing an impression of Toad. Get your head around that. Never quite understood that shot of that bloke there. What is he doing? I've never quite understood. He's exercising, but I've never quite understood what he's doing. And this is obviously a set created especially for this. Quite a basic set. You look at the building at the background there. That's just a flat backdrop. It looks like. And when the horses go past, we don't see them. I think it'd just be very simple models. You know, we just glimpse them. You can just see. I think they're just cutouts of horses. So some of these costumes as well popped up before, but others I think have been specially made, especially for this new Toad. Now that watch, not to criticise the animation too much, but that watch was dangling a bit too much. And the weasels had never been animated so beautifully either. You know, really making use of their, you know, the joints in the mouths and the timing with the eyes and really holding their positions. Very, very nice and clear. Because they weren't afraid to hold the characters in position, you know, and being confident with the posing. If you compare this to, I don't know, some of the Series 1 episodes, there was a lot of movement all the time and it became very floaty. Depending on the animators again and the crews, and again they were learning. But this is Paul Berry, a lot of this, you know, at his very best. And you also had, of course, Sue Pugh on this, and also Lloyd Price, who now is the head of animation at Aardman. And he's got fond memories of this. So we've basically got this cunning plan, which is a very good one, and it is a winner, even though Chief Weasel says it himself. You know, it is a fantastic winning sort of scheme that he's got in comparison to all the others that have failed miserably before. Now we know this is the real Toad for a number of reasons. Obviously he's talking about the punt and what happened there. But also he sounds more like Toad than Isambard the actor does. But it's very clever this, how the other Toad just appears and we see the two of them together for the first time. He's even wearing the same clothes, of course. Always makes my dad laugh, that line. You can't be because I'm me. It's got a beautiful look as well, the production qualities of this. And we talked about lighting before, but I think they've really got the lighting right in this special. It's very dark the way it's lit, but we can still see everything very clearly. The highlights are there where we need them. I always wondered what that lantern just sort of disappears. I guess it just goes out. Now I'm going to be passing a time here the next morning. And we've got this lovely montage now of Toad visiting the other three characters, Mole, Ratty and Badger. And we can straight away see that this is Isambard and not Toad. And I like the way he sort of breaks out of his character. And when he's thinking, he's like, oh, yes. And it kind of confirms, oh, it is him, but also we see more of Isambard's character. We don't just see him being Toad all the time. It's a nice balance for us as the viewer. So all those, again, with the animation, those lovely little gestures, you know, as when he says fine, thank you, fine, and going further with the second fine, and then as he comes down, he sees the cake and then reacts instantly. You just have that little moment of like realisation, and then he goes, cake. Those little things that maybe, you know, the average viewer might not notice, but me as an animator, I understand and appreciate them and admire them, you know. I aspire to this kind of stuff. And I honestly think this still stands up to anything Aardman have done. I mean, obviously we've got Leica films now that are fantastically polished, and Tim Burton's films and all that, but you know, this has got such a beautiful balance at this point in the special of just being, again, clutter-free, and by that I mean just they're just not moving all the time. They've just got very clear poses. Partly it's due to armatures. Peter Saunders told me that during the course of this series, the armatures were improved on quite drastically. So it's wrong to compare this to like Series 1 and the original feature, because things have moved on so much. But that original feature, of course, still stands up incredibly well. But this has got such a different look, hasn't it? But then it is, blimey, 6 years later. I can't believe, isn't it? This is 6 years after the original feature. You look how long they were working on this for, and they still had the final series as well. Now, there's been a bit of discussion as to the order of production. A few people said to me, including Mark Hall himself, that this was the last one made. But it has been pointed out by one or two of you that it was probably done before the final series, or at least during or before some of those episodes, because of the copyright at the end of the episodes and so on. We know broadcast-wise that the 5th series followed this special. And it's funny, isn't it? In some ways I like to think of this as the grand finale, because it is so good. And I obviously reviewed what was the last episode, Toad Filmmaker, last week, and that's still a very wonderful finale, especially with the poignant remarks Badger makes at the end and the end title card and all of that. But as I think a lot of you agree, the animation in this is far superior, unfortunately, to that episode. But I don't want to criticise. I keep saying that. But so the pacing is also very good. I mean, Jackie Cockle, obviously very experienced by this point, knew what she was doing, and we had slightly more time with Mole than we did with Ratty, and now with Badger we've got less time still, I think. But Badger is the most suspicious here, thinking that Toad's making it up. Ratty and Mole didn't say that. A little bit of music there. We've got a lot of original music in this. We've got some of the incidental themes that pop up in the 5th series, but otherwise quite a bit of original music that doesn't appear anywhere else. So this imposter Toad, Isambard, is turning the other characters against each other. Very good plot and very mature and quite adult themes really in this, and certainly with the scenes coming up. And this is quite upsetting, really. Nearly running over the poor youngsters. But we don't, at this point in the story, we don't quite understand why they're walking along carrying all their belongings and looking quite upset before Toad arrives. And I like that they put Billy Rabbit as the kind of leader, which he often is. If you look at some of the later episodes of the series, he often acted as the leader. Monster of the Wild Wood springs to mind. I love that wide shot of Ratties. I've always liked that. Now this is quite ruthless of Ratty, I think. When you think of Mole as probably his closest friend, and he just tears up the invitation. Very sad, upsetting to see. Lovely walk on Badger there. Look at that walk. And the way the camera pans and goes just a bit further and frames him beautifully. So we've had one invitation torn, and then we get this one screwed up. But look at the animation of him throwing it. Bringing the arm sort of back like that, and then back a bit more before doing the final throw. That's really nicely done. Poor Mole, So we've got tension. That's what I love about this. We've got this very realistic tension, and it's so mature in comparison to, I don't know, an episode like The Chief's Return, which, funny enough, is the episode that follows this directly. This to me is so, it's drama, this is, I think. So Mole, being the kindly creature that he is listening to the youngsters, and it's very upsetting and tearful, isn't it? It brings a tear to your eye watching it. Especially when you've got Billy Rabbit looking so cute as he is anyway, with his ears down like that and tears in his eyes as well. And this is an interesting thing. Mole mentions the caravan, says to them all throughout the old caravan, and that, of course, is a nod back to, well, a couple of episodes actually. Firstly, the open road again in series 1, where we rediscover the old gypsy caravan, and we think that Toad, Ratty Mole are going to go on a holiday in it, but in the end it becomes a new home for the field mice. Originally temporarily, but then a home forever. And then much later in The Lost River in series 4, we don't see it, but the caravan is referred to. And it gets flooded by the river when it disappears, and they stay in Toad Hall, and then they return back to the caravan eventually. Apart from that, it's only glimpsed in a couple of episodes in, one in series 4, I think I've said before, the tournament, and then again glimpsed in series 5, Mr. Toad of the Times. So there we go. And it's just nice that it's got that nod back to it. But it's funny that Billy Rabbit was never seen in the open road again or the Lost River. But that obviously became their home. Now, I love this scene. This is, I think, one of the best scenes between Ratty Mole and Badger. Probably the best scene. Just in terms of drama. It shows how they are really human. They can be offended. They can be hurt. They've got feelings. They're sensitive. Especially when you consider how close they are as friends. The way Badger is being very kind of blunt about it, about what he's heard from what Ratty's saying about him. And Ratty is standing his ground as well. I like originally where Badger said, "Never thought you thought of me," in that dramatic point at Ratty there. Almost painting Ratty in the worst picture between out of the three of them. What I love about the characterisation though is Badger is accusing Ratty, but as a result of that, Mole isn't accusing Ratty, he's just merely sort of repeating what Toad said, saying, "Oh, well, Toad said this about me." So, and that's the difference between their characters. Badger would do that, he would accuse, but Mole would be a bit more, he would tread more lightly, more carefully, or dance around it, because he doesn't want to think it's true. Badger doesn't want to think it's true either, but that's just a difference in the way they would handle that situation. So I think the characterisation is very well pushed here. And this scene as well, where we see the relationship between the three of them and Toad really being tested as well. We've never seen them quite this upset or angry with Toad. Particularly Ratty in a moment, who nearly loses it, which I love as well. And we do get physical as well. When Toad, Isambard pushes Mole out of the way here. And then, of course, us, the audience, are treated if that's the right word. Well, we now know exactly what they're doing with Toad. Poor Toad, locked in his own cellar. I love the lighting in that as well. Using the wine racks just to get glimpses and highlights with those. Now that's very key there, of course, where he says his business. Now look at the Chief Weasel there. Did you notice that? As a child I never noticed the animation of him, but that is what I mean about that attention to detail. Badger butts in with Mole, saying he's about to say the magistrate's a lady or a she, and Badger says he must say he is. Badger's already onto something, but the Chief Weasel is as well, and he thinks, that was a close one, because the Chief Weasel is aware that the magistrate is a lady and not a man. So to have that detail in there is just quite extraordinary. They could have just had him standing there listening, but no, they go further. And I think that was always present, even from the film in series 1 all the way through. They tried to do that, but never to that level of expertise in terms of the timing and the date and getting those positions, and with the eyes and everything. Beautiful stuff. Now, though I say this is a very kind of mature, probably the maturest story in The Wind of the Willows, on the face of it, you could argue that it's fairly infantile. I mean, when we think of they don't realise it's not the real toad because they look exactly the same. Now, if that had been a human being, obviously you couldn't get two people looking just like that unless they were twins or whatever, But when you've got animals, they're a bit more, they look identical, don't they? So it gives them slightly less of a human quality, but then they are animals at the end of the day, aren't they? Or are they? I don't know. Are they animals? I mean, that's a bigger discussion altogether. Lots of scholars have discussed it. I love that moment of realisation there. Now, I also love the way Badger gestures here when he's saying that creature, and he points towards where Toadle would be. It gives us an idea of where the geography is. Toadle's in that direction. But where's Badger's front door in relation to that? I guess we can kind of work it out from other episodes. Did you notice the picture in the background as well? We often see that from Producer's Lot, Pirates of Penzance. In pretty much every episode since then, when we go to Badger's house, it's there, and I love that. I love that they kept it there. These voices are so brilliant. Now, these two weasels are almost like a contender, for an even better double act than the Chief Weasel and the Henchman. Although almost an extension of them, aren't they? Just a tamer version, if you like. Just one who's upright and kind of the leader, if you like. And the other one's a bit dopey. Now, this scene always stuck out in my memory as well. I think I remember it from the original transmission, partly because we have a little nod back to the original film here. Now, the series never does this, apart from in Winter Haunts, when we see old footage of the Ghost at Mole End. But here we have actual footage, not in black and white, of the feature film. Love it, love it, love it. And I love that Cosgrove Hall put it in, because it's almost like a reminder that film exists, and it almost urges you to go and watch it, especially if you've never seen it. And let's be honest, a lot of viewers in 1989 probably wouldn't have seen it. I know it was transmitted at least once more, the original film. It was transmitted originally in December 83, and then again in December 84, I believe, or was it Easter 84? But anyway, it was transmitted again, and then maybe not since then. So I love this outfit. I'm glad to say that maid's outfit exists still. I was excited to see it in the archive. Really nice to see that it's there. And I love what the Weasels have done to all Toad's stuff. Putting lampshades and things over, statues and cloths and things over paintings just to hide all the Toads. It makes you wonder why they don't just get rid of all the stuff, but they kind of living like layabouts, living like they did in the Weasel's Den, making, basically trashing the place. So that's set dressing, that's attention to detail in dressing the set. You've got the set itself, and then you've got to dress it to suit the scene. I'm always admired by the set dressers at Aardman. We did Shaun the Sheep, all that detail that they looked into when considering the episode and at what point you are in the story of the episode and so on. Now, this scene always stands out as well. Again, one of my dad's favourites. Just David Jace did a brilliant job of trying to hide the fact that he's Toad, trying to put on this maid's voice and thinking he can fool the Weasels. But this again is it's so obvious to us. It's Toad. All you need to do is lift the hat, but there's no difference anyway with the hat on. It's obviously Toad. And how they believe that they have another Toad who looks just like him, who is a maid. They can see he's a Toad. But we've of course had loads of episodes like that, where Toad's been fooled by the Weasels in that way, or even the other characters, particularly Badger, has been fooled by the Weasels, dressed as the chief dressed as a policeman in fancy dress. It's lovely. Just this. Dread. Beautiful animation. Well, Isambard's just standing there as well. I love the way Ratty talks to Mole. Well, I don't love it, but he's very blunt to Mole, isn't he? Give him a moment, and again makes them very human. They're not always nice and gentle with each other. You know, they do get frustrated and irritable, just like we all do. They are such well-rounded characters by this point. I always mention my dad watching this. My mum loves the Willows as well, and that always made her laugh when Ratty said, "My word, she's put on weight." Obviously, looking at Toad. Now this is an impressive shot. There's actually an image you can find online somewhere. I think you can still see it. Of someone who worked on making props, and they came in at this point. And there's a lovely shot of the set during the shooting of this scene, and you can actually see Toad as the maid on the side, with some animator access between where all the weasels and these characters are and Toad, like for these shots. So you could get in between them. You could either put, I guess, the camera there looking at Toad, and then the camera that way looking at the chief. So poor Toad just isn't strong enough to face them, is he? Even though they've taken over his home, telling him what to do in his own home, bossing him around. So it does remind you of the film here, where they're planning to get into Toad Hall. So they're mentioning the tunnel. Now, of course, we remember the tunnel from the film. We've seen them go through tunnels in various other episodes. I love the moonlight here as well. I'm thinking, why did one of them go with them? Couldn't one of them gone with them? Or it's a shame Otto isn't in this more. He's in it very briefly later on. You just see a couple of shots of him, but it's fun. It's just a shame that he wasn't written into it more. But I guess he wasn't really needed. But. So the chief can already hear something's going on. Those lovely flashes at the end, really nicely done. Now I love this next shot here, silhouettes. There we go, Billy and the little field mouse there. Ernest, of course. We mentioned Ernest before, haven't we? Well, we've seen Ernest in various episodes. Ernest, of course, is the field mouse, or shrew, I guess. I should call him a shrew. He goes missing in the rescue, and that's way back in series 2. But I guess that's who he is. Just got a different voice, that's all. Now, talking of brilliant scenes, I think this is another one of the absolute best scenes in the whole series as well. Again, we've got drama, we've got tension. We feel a little bit on edge watching it because we know that what's going on. We know that they've got to try and be quiet. That realisation with Toad, yes, no. beautifully done. And again, the lighting is well done. Because how do you light a cellar when there's literally no light or very little light? You just got to think of your light source, of course. You've got to think of the doorway there. You need to get some light coming through there. Got hints of blue or blue gels I've used to get the highlights. We get highlights on the bottles and the racks there. It's nice to see the two toads talking, which we barely had. Best line ever now. Brilliant line. That's my wife's favourite line in the whole series. Poor chap, the wine seems to have gone to his head. I mean, how brilliant. And who better than Ratty to say that? Sarcastic Ratty. Now this scene, like I say, at this point in the scene, I think it's very, very good. Some great characterisation, and we got Badger now sort of scheming and thinking about what to do next, thinking ahead. Toad being, it's his character. He's only thinking of now, the moment now. He's not thinking ahead. He's not thinking things through. All he's thinking about is getting free and just getting out of there. I bet they have fun recording this. I think it's beautifully done. I would love to have seen the 4 actors recording this dialogue. That's a bit dark, isn't it? I can't hardly see Ratty there. Let's see all of them except Ratty. So Badger's really got a good plan here. Basically, Toad should become Isambard. And great, I love that as well. The timing there. That's probably David Jason. I bet that was done in one take. He probably just said it and it came out so well. He said, we'll keep that. Look at the Badger's eye there. Great animation, just so subtle. He sort of leans and then the eyebrow just comes up. It's almost like, you've escaped. And then it's almost like a gesture of like, he's escaped, see what I mean? Just communicating that in just a twitch of an eyebrow. Which the other characters can't do like Badger can. So they all have their own little gestures they can get across that makes them unique. And with Badger it is his whiskers and particularly his eyebrows. Brilliantly done. Now, talking of the lighting, this next shot of Toad really jumps out. Like, whoa, he's bright. He's obviously stepped into the light, and it's probably a bit too drastic there. It's the way weird there, the way we dissolve, and straight away Toad's looking up for some reason, then he looks down. It's almost like he's gone from upstairs to downstairs, but of course he's gone from down to up. But, so it's very clever, and you think of the voice work. Again, this is now David Jason playing Toad, pretending to be Isambard. And later he plays Toad, pretending to be Isambard, pretending to be Toad. Messes with your head. But it's a great way of kind of like... It's basically David Jason trying not to do too clever a job. He has to do a job that's good enough for Toad, if you see what I mean. He's only doing it as well as Toad could do it. David Jason could probably do a better job at doing Isambard. So I love that. Again, it's beautifully, just beautifully analysed in that way. Now it's weird. I've always felt with this shot, it feels like we're back to the territory of the series. We feel like we're in an episode now. We've had a lot of dark scenes, a lot of kind of sinister stuff going on, and now we've got that lovely jolly theme music there. We see Ratty's riverbank home. We haven't spent much time in Ratty's house. the way Ratty touches Badger's arm there. Only noticed that recently, really. Now look how Toad's saying all this awful stuff. So he's going to blow up their homes, and he does it while smiling the whole time because he's enjoying his game. Shoves the whole thing in at the end. So Badger again is thinking things through, and he's absolutely right. They've got to carry on with this plan of theirs in case they change their plans. And it's very sinister when you think the idea of blowing up their homes. What if they have decided to do it early and suddenly they decide to blow them up with the characters in there? And when they say blow the homes up, do they mean they'll do it regardless of whether Ratty, Mole and Badger are in their homes or not, in which case they'll blow them up as well? So it's very dark, scary stuff, quite true of the real world in many ways. There's some hints of like almost the horrors of the 20th century coming their way in many ways, and that's of course part of Wind in the Willows. It's celebrating Victorian England in many ways and not Edwardian England, even though it's set in Edwardian England. And of course we've got the World Wars and all the other horrors that followed in the 20th century. So this kind of hint of war, which not only is in this but quite a few episodes as well, is a big part of it. It's that balance again of sunshine and shadow. There's a lot of shadow in this special, isn't there? Probably more shadow than sunshine. But it's bookended with sunshine, which I love. And this is a great comedy scene where the Weasels just aren't getting it at all, and it shows how stupid they are. And you think the henchman is stupid, but the chief is just as stupid, really. Blow him up and all. And I always thought this is incredibly brave of Toad. He's just walking in at this point. He doesn't really know what Isambard's going to be saying. But when you really analyse it, there's many things Isambard could say to prove that he is Isambard. It's only the obvious stuff that's coming out here, but all the things about when they first met at the races and the Gold Watch, all that, things of which Toad would never know about. But as an audience, especially if we're a child audience, we accept this, and we believe that the Toads could easily get mixed up, and it's fine. The Weasels don't know what to think at the moment. It makes me laugh. They didn't think this through, did they? The fact that the Toads could easily get mixed up at some point. That's exactly what's happened. Now it's weird, every time I watch this I never quite understand this idea of, why would Isambard know what he's been to London for? I guess they're talking about, they've only just been swaps, and that was the real Toad before when he talked about going to London. I guess, yeah. That makes sense, I guess. Got a trembling. Isambard has that slight trembling, and I kind of like, what? He doesn't know what to say. Now that's Toad being Toad. Almost putting his foot in it. And I love how the Weasels regard that as just another impression. Really good. So we do obviously live in a world here where they can easily get characters mixed up. That's fine. We just accept it as part of the Wind in the Willows universe, I guess. Now that's an interesting set. I don't think it's one we've seen before. I'm just wondering now whether it was used in the Chief's Return as part of that prison set, but I don't know. But either way, it's a lovely little set piece, built especially for this. More darkness here, which continues. manages to get a goal pin. There's a bit of a continuity error there where he had his arm up and then he was down in the next shot. That happens. Generally, it's very, very good. I love this scene now, or montage. It's those two weasels again, the new double act. I would love to see a spin-off show just for these two. But you think of all the other classic Cosgrove Hall double acts. Victor and Hugo, of course, is a great one. It's always the same setup. You get the smart one, who's like the leader, and then the silly one. I love the way he pronounces that. Should have gone off. Now this is a really unusual set as well. This is underneath Ratty's home. We see the waves, the kind of light of the waves, the water hitting the walls there, creating light. And we never see underneath Ratty's home. We only get a very tiny glimpse in the film when we first meet Ratty. That made my brother laugh originally. That line, the way he delivers it. Hey, what are you doing? Walking into stuff. Walking into fists. It really has occurred to me though how dark this special really is. It's just dark scene after dark scene. Sinister stuff. Now that's interesting how Mole says how the others got on. Now what does he mean by others? You know, there's only Badger, isn't there? And then Badger says Otto and the others. So just Otto's name just gets slipped in there. You almost wonder if it was an addition to the script, a late entry or something. So it's interesting how like Otto's, they regard Otto as being like one of the characters there that lives there, one of their friends, but I guess he would have cluttered it too much, probably thinking about it. The idea of, we never see Otto's home ever, do we? And when the chief wants to get rid of Ratty, Mole and Badger, does he really mean Otto as well? Is he a threat? Because if they got rid of Ratty, Mole, Badger, Otto would be left still, and Otto's one of Toad's friends, isn't he? So we don't quite hear those explosions clearly enough. I've always thought that. I've always thought they're a bit kind of, especially with the characters talking over them. We just hear them and then we get a reaction from Toad, then the henchman, then the chief. Yeah. So poor Toad, he doesn't know what to think. Lovely animation of the henchman being dragged there. We've never seen the chief looking so evil, quite as evil as this. He just doesn't care at all. He's so pleased with himself. He's blown up their homes. He doesn't care at all. Love that. Go, ooh. Yeah, we can just get a glimpse of Badger there. I love that behind Toad's car. Now, this is where we see Otto. There he is. Nice that he's included, but yeah, not much of an appearance. Don't know who did his voice. All he said was "me too." Again, lovely lighting, especially with the lanterns. You don't often see lanterns outside Toad's Hall, do you? They just turn, they give up, and they realise they've lost out. And the weasels are really behaving like animals then, wouldn't they? Growling. It's interesting how that composition is there. The weasels are sort of stood behind Mole, Ratty. You'd think they'd be detained. You'd think they'd be kind of held somewhere or something. They're just kind of in a very relaxed position. They could easily just run off, you know. So it's a bit odd that. Even Badger can't tell them apart, and you think, really? Oh, I love this beautiful piece of choreography now with all this. Very complex, must have been a real nightmare to shoot, especially all this falling fruit. And there's a couple of mistakes here and there where you see props shift, but they've done a really good job, especially when you think they couldn't see anything in these days, couldn't see what they were shooting. Now, I never lose sight of who Toad is, and I'm sure none of you do. And I'm sure as a child we wouldn't have. Toad's always at the front. Yeah. He pans, reminds me of winter sports. Toad was singing Shoosh Boomer. And for the first time ever since the film, we've got some chandelier swinging about that. Now, they probably rigged it in a similar way, but they obviously anchored from the top there and on some sort of winder. I don't think they would have used wires. I think it would have been a very strong device that they could reposition. I mean, look at that, beautifully done. Especially that wide shot, absolutely gorgeous. So ahead of its time, I really think that, and I still think that now. That's where you see a bit of fruit shift there. You can see like the joins, when you see a wide shot like that, you can see kind of where the set separates, like the telltale traces of lines and things for animator access and so on. So we know that's the real Toad. Semper Bufo. And the only worrying thing is, I'm kind of thinking, Isambard probably could have known about Semper Bufo, especially when it's on the flag. It's always on the flag at the top of Toad Hall. So I must admit, as a child, I was always thinking, well, is he really the right Toad though? Have they absolutely got it right, or was he? Is that Isambard sitting there with him? Kind of a scary thought, but we know it's the real Toad, of course. And again, I've mentioned bookending before. Despite all that darkness throughout the special, we end now with this lovely, happy, jolly scene, relaxed scene, echoing kind of the first scene. Despite Toad being on his punt and causing havoc, he's now sitting with the other three, relaxing on the riverbank rather than being on the river, reading a book. And it's lovely. And the way Toad says, this business has taught me an awful lot. You think that Toad's going to turn over a new leaf. He's not going to have craze after craze. And, it's lovely. And Badger refers to them as the evil pair. And, Ratty says they can't do much harm. Dr. Hummer put them in a prison cell. Now, we think of the evil pair as the Chief Weasel and Isambard, not the henchman. He was just dragged into it, wasn't it? But when we go to the Chief's return, of course, we see the Chief and the henchman in prison, not the Toad. And obviously that needs to work for the story to work in the Chief's return, but it just bothers me, and it's just one of the many reasons why I've never really liked the Chief's return as an episode. It's not one of my favourites. But it doesn't matter, it's fine. And I remember as a child watching it thinking, oh my gosh, they've actually put one of the characters in water. They would have totally ruined it, and they probably did, or temporarily anyway. Certainly ruined that costume, I reckon. And it wasn't water, of course, it had water in it. It was some sort of gel mixed in with it, of course, as we know, to give it that thickness. Look at the voices there, Alan Bardsley, Brian Southwood, and those three mighty fine animators. I didn't mention before the timing of that shot must have been so impeccably worked out, because he gets that branch just at the right point when he says, no, what does he say? No, not look out. And he got that little gesture just as he said that, and then goes into it, beautifully timed. So it must have been so planned from that end point. I remember discussing it with Jackie Cockle when I met with her once. Brought that up, and she nodded and said, oh, we were good. She wasn't blowing her own trumpet, she was basically saying, we were good, as in we worked at it, we made sure that we accurately worked everything out, to do the best they could, and they absolutely did. I still think it stands as the greatest theme stop Cosgrove Hall ever did, certainly stop motion wise, but I think overall, personally, I'll always think that. And there we go. Wow, we are there. What a wonderful special, and what a fitting end to these reviews. I can't believe we're done. It's a weird feeling. Oh, quite emotional. Wow, that is amazing. It's taken a year to get through everything. That was my plan. This time last year, I reviewed A Ghost at Mole End, or hereabouts, having just done the feature film before it. And it's done. Every episode accounted for. Now, I've mentioned at the start of the video that I want to do more videos. I'm going to have a bit of a break now because it's been great. I've enjoyed it, but obviously it's full on doing this on a weekly basis, especially with the bonus ones every 4 weeks. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've learned a heck of a lot from all of you who've left some marvellous comments. Thank you so much for your comments and thoughts. You've come up with so many things that I hadn't thought of. But it's weird. The interesting thing is when I watch these and when I've done a review, I always think of things, I could have said that, and why didn't I say that? But it's not as easy as you might think. You know, you're watching something, and even though you know it so well, sometimes things don't spring to mind. You're wondering, I'll talk about that, but then I could talk about that, or I've missed that. You know, it's a weird experience, but there's obviously room for way more discussion on, you know, individual episodes. You know, there's so much more to talk about. One thing I certainly want to talk about more is just the general themes of the Wind and the Willows, and I've mentioned before I want to work out the geography based on various episodes, in like all the characters' houses in relation to each other. So that's one thing I want to do. I want to do a lot of videos on the things that I own. You can see behind me, as you've seen in every video, this collection of merchandise that I've collected over the years. It's been quite a journey. I'm probably almost at the end of my road in terms of collecting, because I've almost got everything that you can get merchandise-wise. I've highlighted before that I've got some original pieces from the shows. These, of course, are from the Yuletide Entertainment. I've got some other props and things that were kindly given to me. One or two things I bought before on eBay and so on. They're all in another room in the house, so I want to share those with you at some point. I also want to talk about something special that I've got happening at the moment. Something I've been making that's really exciting. It's my most prized possession, so I'll share that with you. And I've also mentioned before the idea of a book that I really want to do, and I've been meaning to do for years. I've done various interviews with people who worked on the Wind and the Willows. There's many more I want to do, but it's all leading towards this book that I really want to publish. Hopefully it will be given the go-ahead. It will be an academic book, but it won't be academically written, if that makes sense. But I also want to do, ideally, another book beyond that, maybe a more overall Cosgrove Hall book, but it'd be lovely to do just much more exploration to this wonderful series. All the behind the scenes photos you've seen, most of those have come from the archive. I've done various visits of photographing items that they have, and I want to do much more studying into what all of that is, and I've been cataloguing a lot of it, so I want to work with the archive a lot more, and various other bits and pieces I want to do as well, which I'll talk about more as I get nearer the times of doing them. I'm losing my words tonight, but it's been a long one, so I guess I'll leave it there. But I want to say again, thank you so much for all the comments. Thank you for subscribing. Apologies again for not always being completely on the ball with replying to your comments. I know there's still quite a few I need to reply to, and I really will try. I'm just very busy. I've got a young family. I work away from home, do a lot of travelling. Life's just busy, so it's been challenging enough to keep up these reviews, but I'm glad I've managed to get through it all, and it's been a wonderful journey. But I will be online a lot more, so do look out for more videos, and thank you so much again for everything. But for now, all the best, and I shall see you very soon, not next week, but very, very soon, with more videos. So do stay tuned, and I shall see you as and when. All the best, and thanks again. With that of Toad, intelligent Mr. Toad, encouraging